A very good afternoon to everyone and welcome back. If you join in for the first time, my name is Wani and I am your MC for the day. A quick recap on the House rule. A very good afternoon to everyone and welcome back. If you join in for the first time, my name is Wani and I am your MC for the day. A quick recap on the house rules of the conference. The access link to the webinar is unique and to only one person and it should not be forwarded or shared with anyone else. Close all apps, browsers, and emails to minimize your internet bandwidth. Participants' microphone will be muted to minimize the disruption to the audio quality. Without further ado, we shall now move into the second roundtable discussion titled Moving into 2022, the Property Landscape in West Malaysia. We are honored to have Ms. Chan Ai Ching from Malaysian Institute of Estate Agents, MIEA, Sir Muhammad Salim from Urban Development Authority of Malaysia, Dr. Daniel Gambero from Malaysia PropTech Association. Before we continue, I would like to share the profile of the panelists. Ms. Chan Ai Ching is the president of the Malaysian Institute of Estate Agents from 2021 to 2023. She is a registered estate agent with the Board of Valuers, Appraisers, Estate Agents and Property Managers Malaysia, BOVAEP, and served as its board member from 2019 to 2021, where she was the chairman of the Estate Agency Practice Committee. Next, we have Sir Muhammad Salim. Sir Muhammad Salim Kailani was appointed as the President and Chief Executive Officer of Uda Holdings Berhad in 2019. As a highly reputable and respected property player, he has an approximate of 29 years of experience in the property industry with vast experience in strategizing and leading cross-functional teams. And finally, we have Dr. Gambero. Dr. Daniel Gambero, besides being a proponomist, co-founder and CEO of Ray Group and proponomy.com, Dr. Daniel Gambero is also the president of the Malaysia PropTech Association and public organizations and property developers worldwide in their branding effort and understanding the sustainability of their project. This conference will now be moderated by Ms. Agnes Wong, the managing partner of Syarikat Ong Sdn Bhd. Over to you, Ms. Agnes.
Thank you very much, Wani. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our conference this year, titled Business and Tax Conference Moving Forward 2022. So this is the second panel session that we are having with the title of Moving into the Year 2022 with Budget 2022 under the property sector. Allow me to say thank you to all my panelists. Muhammad Salim, who's actually representing FIAPSI Malaysia, and Dr. Daniel representing PropTech Malaysia, and Chang Ai-Ching representing MIEA. So I think we already have all the right people in the audience already. Now, before we begin, allow me to ask more taxing questions, before we move into the budget-related questions about the issue, ladies and gentlemen, that we have been speaking about over the overhang. I think the questions of overhang has always been there all the time. So based on the latest NAPIT report, I think everybody in the property industry would have been receiving it. We are actually an overhang issue in Malaysia. And some of these numbers can come from residential property as well as from commercial properties. So I would just wanted to actually check with my fellow panelists here, what is a real solution to it? We know that last year budget, this year budget, we didn't actually hear much on that one. Last year budget, the government actually having incentive for people who are actually taking over abandoned projects or buy abandoned projects, a property from abandoned projects. And then last year budget, we talk about the building material, right? The IBS system, right? Being another layer of incentives that we are trying to give. So I'm just wanted to sort the information from the audience when it comes to the issues of overhang. What shall be the solution, or what should be the right solutions that the market really needs in order for us to address this? Maybe I would like to start by having Muhammad Salim to answer these questions.
Thank you, Agnes. Thank you, the organizers, for the session today. I would like to also welcome my fellow panelists, Ms. Chan Ai-Ching and Dr. Daniel Gambero. These are all seasoned property professionals. We understand property, I suppose, quite well to know the situation. Let's give a bit of a background because we touch on the aspect of the unsold properties. Generally, if you were supposed to have a property ready for occupation, the whole process of developing it would take anywhere between 3 to 5 years. The construction itself for the landed properties under the Housing Development Act, we were supposed to complete within 24 months, and for the strata, it's within 36 months. A lot of the time, there were also applications to extend beyond 36 months as well. So what it means is, are there areas of concern with regards to unsold properties? Let's zoom in into the detail. Where are the location of those unsold units as well as the type of properties? Because fundamentally, residential properties is a necessity. You will always have a need for a house, and to give us some kind of barometers in terms of whether the need for houses or the demand for houses is still there. Your biggest indication if there are still family creation through marriage and through birth. So basically that gives you an indication that the supply would continue to grow. And given that property would take a certain number of years to develop, so you should not be alarmed by the fact that there are unsold units, but you should be alarmed if the absorption rate goes beyond what they can cover in, say, 2 to 3 years or 3 to 5 years. Otherwise, it should be seen like a mismatch in terms of, for example, preference. If, for example, a developer construct buildings not in the right location, then definitely the demand for such property would be small. So I would say that the key important thing, this is where most probably Dr. Daniel can explain further, is for the players to be more discerning whenever they want to launch products, i.e. by having the right studies to be done beforehand, and by making sure that it is no longer about the speculation that there are demand, but rather assessing what is the actual demand. So it's no longer about there are need for houses, but rather, yes, there are need for maybe 200 units. With that, I hope I've touched a bit. I'm allowing for the rest of the panel. So I'm giving back to you, Ms. Agnes.
Sure. I would like to dive deep further on your sharing, yeah, Mama Salim, because just now you mentioned about overhang and unsold. So what is the difference between these two, meaning the unsold unit and the overhang units in the industry? What is the definition difference?
Okay, overhang is whenever the building is already completed and it remains unsold beyond, I think it's beyond 1 year, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So as far as unsold, these are still units which has been launched, but not completed yet, or it is completed within that 1 year period. So what it means is those, as you walk, say for example, as you drive around, you see buildings under construction. If there are still units available, those are considered unsold units. If you drive around and see a completed project and it has been more than a year and there are units unsold, those units are considered an overhang. So I hope that clears the air in terms of the difference between unsold and overhang.
I see. Are there any numbers, the recent numbers about the number of overhang units from PFC Malaysia? Yeah, maybe you can share some with us on that one.
The national data is held by NAPID, National Property Information Center. Based on the latest statistic, the overhang of residential unit is about 31,000. And as far as service apartment, is about 24,000 units. So combined, it's about 55,000 unsold units. And as far as unit under construction, is about 74,000 residential unit and about 42,000 of service apartment. So that gives about 110,000 unsold units. So combined is anywhere between 160 to 170,000.
I see. So I just wanted to pose these questions to I-Ching. From estate agents' perspective, are these numbers easy to digest and sort out and to help out in as far as this overhang or unsold units is concerned at this current state of whether you call it during pandemic or you call it post-pandemic or you call it phases of pandemic, whatever it is?
Okay, thank you, Agnes. And I think Muhammad Salim, Saria Muhammad Salim has gave a very good understanding about the property overhang situation. So, and on the agent side on property overhang, we always feel that and everything is a matter of pricing. Yeah, most of the time, pricing resolves a lot of situations when the property remains unsold. Okay, most of the time maybe they thought the price was too high, or the price did not commemorate it doesn't tie hand in hand with the location or the type of product or something like that. So that's the reason why some properties remain unsold. Of course, we always talk about mismatch. That means they weren't the right product anyway for that location, but somehow that got built and now it can't sell. So sometimes we ask the question, whose fault is that? Yeah. So, but I really agree with what Saria Muhammad Salim said about planning at the onset. We have been propagating this as well, that maybe right now it's very difficult to resolve the property overhang, but we can stop it from getting worse by having all that, more stringent requirements upfront. That means instead of just doing simple market study, they go through very elaborate, maybe to a certain extent, even getting, a bit more than just expression of interest from potential buyers. That means sometimes what developers do is they go and registration exercise. So everybody register, I'm interested. Then come the launch date, huh, what happened to all these interested people? Where have they gone? And then left with a handful or, a fraction of the people. And therefore the developer in a way was misled by the so-called the data lah. So yeah, that's where PropTech all comes in, right? To help us analyze the data better. So in terms of how agents can support, I think we have done a really good, I mean, we have been a very supportive tool for developers. I think Reda and also Fiapsi can agree to that. And in fact, we have also helped out the government agencies like Prima and all that to really push the sales as well as the conversion of these properties from to actual buyers lah. So we have done our part to try to reduce that overhang. But in order for that to happen, the developers have also adjusted, came up with packages that were more exciting and more fitting for the market. And therefore, together with our aggressive methods of selling and reaching the people, we managed to resolve part of this scenario lah. So that's on the overhang part of it. But I think you touched something about abandon, but that is a different topic, You covered both. But I think we're talking about overhang first, right? Maybe later.
I'm talking about overhang first, about overhangs, because overhang appeared to me that it's still sellable, it's just to who, whereas abandon can be various, abandon on its way to get completed, abandon because it's just totally wrong. It's just totally wrong. Then, it's become a white elephant sitting up there. So, actually, I think just now you touched on, like the stringent measures at the beginning. What is your thought when it comes to these stringent measures? Because these measures will involve, I believe, the authority, the town planner maybe. So, in a democratic world that we are in, right? So while we are drawing the map of where's supposed to be what, right? But to what extent that in fact, an authority can interfere onto what should be built at where and make it a mandatory or so-called like an enforced approach. After all, we are not like China, whereby we can like say, okay, this location, you can only be this. Because property or land per se, it's pretty much accessible for purchase by anyone for development. So actually how to strike this balance between to what extent the authority should get involved in approving as well as, Okay. I don't know whether it's the question's clear.
I think actually Surveyor Muhammad Salih will be the right guy to answer. But anyway, I'll make an attempt.
Yeah.
Okay, I think some years ago, I think in the 1997, that the Asian financial crisis time, there was a major issue when it came to commercial properties in the city. I think everybody remembered that there was a big so-called glut with commercial properties. And you know what DBKL did at the time? They froze commercial developments completely. And of course, everyone was screaming and developers were like, oh no, what's going to happen to our land here? And what we can't develop, we can't turn it around and all that. But after they lifted the freeze, the market, the commercial market there boomed. So that was very painful for a lot of people when the freeze was imposed. But the after effects, I think we feel it probably till couple of years later than that. So that really helped because a lot of property owners, right? Their property price really increased after that. Yeah, so they felt that So, but I'm not talking about stringent measures like freeze and all that. But I'm talking more like not so much about the town planners either, but the actual market. I know the Housing Developers Act does not permit collection of fees, booking fee and everything, as a gauge of a person's interest. But perhaps I think maybe that is something they really should look into, because when a person registers without money, that is like, I just register everywhere lah. It doesn't make a difference. I don't lose anything if I don't go ahead with it. But if I parted with some money and I say that, I'm interested in this property, I put my deposit where it is, although it's not given to the developer yet, but it shows my expression of interest. The money could go to a government agency also, for all we know. Yeah, it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to go to anybody's account. But that way, the developer may have a better gauge at how many people are really excited about his project at the price is indicating and the product. Then I think very easy. Then the moment they launch, boom. Also, where do we have overhang situation?
So it's a mismatch of information collected at the beginning, right? So you see, for anyone who fill out this kind of form, including myself, I'm guilty of it, right? I may take a yes interested just because I'm worried I lose out an opportunity. It doesn't really mean that I'm actually keen with that particular area. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I think you're speaking to us or you're speaking to the phone?
No, I was on the phone, sorry.
Yeah, not an issue, not an issue. Yeah. So I'd like to pose that same question to Surveyor Muhammad Salim on to the fact that, like what shall be, what is that balancing act between these two?
Okay, I suppose the market needs to mature over time, because we should not be saying like in situation of distress, the authority needs to come in and put in certain imposition, because then it is really not healthy to the whole so-called open economy. Yeah. So what we can do is there are a few things that can happen in the context of the property industry. For this industry to survive, there has to be, on the one side, the markets, which is basically the buyers. But at the same time, buyers don't buy cash because property are considered big ticket items. And a lot of the time, the bankers needs to be in the picture as well. They are the one that provides funding, either to the developer or to the end financier or the end purchasers. Yeah. So I would like to see, as from the angle of learning from previous experiences, is for the market to mature. So what it means is the bank needs to be extra careful in terms of whenever they want to extend project funding or end financing. The developers, like I've said earlier, must be able to understand the market, do the right studies, get the so-called focus group done, talk to the players. And a lot of the time we do interact with estate agents beforehand to understand in terms of product features, as well as what is the soft spot for the pricing. And of course, on the authority side, they have the big numbers. Those days, 1997, 2007, big data were not available. Come 2021, we have the data available. So most probably what we need to do as an industry is to make sure and create an open system of data availability so that everybody is aware what is the current position. Yeah, it used to be from a developer's perspective a challenge to know what is actually the situation in the marketplace. Why? Because data were like maybe 6 months behind. So therefore, you have to basically put your hand on the air and then say, yeah, I would like to launch product. That sounds good. But I suppose as we mature, and I hope the industry as a whole would also be aware that there are areas where intervention can come in. So not necessarily by the government. It can also be a market-driven control. And therefore, we will be able to see more mature property industry as a whole. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Daniel, on the issues of overhang or unsold, maybe. Yeah. Overhang is more than 1 year.
Is very much a mix. Is very much a mix of a property career and since 2016 more towards PropTech. As you know, I have been always a numbers and data person, collecting data, searching, doing survey by myself, disturbing NAPIC. I've been working on something quite big with Enjil Salim in the past. Very good to see you, and you look great, by the way. And okay, let's talk about numbers, all right? And let's make one principle clear, which we all, purchaser, professional, property developers, should be keeping in mind. It is not said that you start building a project and you sell it out. Those times are gone. How long it takes to a condominium to be up? Between 3 and 5 years. Should be only 3, but too many developments have been getting now 4 or 5 years, which to me is a bit too much, but okay, hands off. I'm okay with that. in the moment in which the project is sold before delivery, to me, is not a threat. Developers, government shouldn't be pulling away their hair or being threatened by this kind of situation. Where the point is overhang, which was very high 2 years ago, and it has been remaining very high for one reason: location, price, size. The three main issues that were in the market in 2018 and 2019 and have been drastically changed, allow me to say so, during the last 24 months. Pandemic has been teaching us a totally new way of looking at lifestyle and work style. Remote working, hybrid working, work from home is nowadays becoming a normal, and businesses and employees, employers and employees are nowadays kind of getting it and say, okay, let's look into a new future. So this new future might be a bit less concentrated towards city centers, more towards suburban areas. And in any case, those projects that have been launched with very high value in their own location because was already oversupplied, honestly, why should government, I know maybe Salim will not be very happy about what I'm saying, but a developer is making a mistake, why should be the taxpayer or the government helping them to resolve their mistake? Right? Is a choice at a certain point. Comes a day in which, I know, again, maybe I'm too straightforward, I hope I will not lose any client developer, but they know how I think. I mean, guys, we have been telling you for many years that the city center is oversupplied and you keep on launching, then you want to really hit yourself, hurt yourself. Besides this, how to look at the future? To me, future is all about data. We still have a very healthy demand of properties in Malaysia. The projection that I've been doing sorry?
We talk about future later. We talk about future later.
No. What
Yeah,
I'm saying, what I'm just saying is,
Right.
let's use the data. Let's use what is available for developers to understand and read the market. How to control, honestly, city planning. How come Singapore has never been getting through this very high oversupply or very high overhanging of properties? Because they have the agency for the development of Singapore controlled by the government, which define where, what, when, and who. Is even too much somehow. All right, is even too much. But a good city planning, I give you an example, Agnes. In Europe, you want to build a shopping mall in a road where there is already 2 kilometers away another shopping mall. In Italy, in my Campun country, you cannot have you will never manage to get a development order. Because the government doesn't want two economic centers to compete to each other. Otherwise, at the end, the government, as a tax collector, will be at the losing end. So it has to be all based on an economic principle. And again, understanding exactly how the path of growth for economy and property should be going. Where are the numbers? Who is going to buy, at what price, and when? And numbers, PropTech can really reply in a very precise manner over a 5 years time frame about all these questions.
Right. You know, if I may just toss it over to how businesses actually get loans from facilities or whatever, right? For anyone to actually bank on them, there is one very important thing is actually the feasibility studies, right? The feasibility studies, your forecast and projections, etc. If any of the how do you call submission for approval, all right, for any developments required to also put in this feasibility studies, you know, whether it's population numbers or whatever that the government or the authority, the approving authority would put in place, I think that may be an important additional measures for us to actually avoid, for us to actually avoid the same, should I say, I won't say mistake, but the same history repeats itself kind of thing, you know. So the feasibility studies when you submit your development plan probably works, but I'm sure maybe certain developers may not like that idea. Yeah, okay, very good. Now, just now, Dr. Daniel actually touched on this, you know, this overhang actually talked about location, price, as well as the size of the property. Just curious, right? Maybe from surveyor Muhammad Salim's point of view as a developer, or even from I Ching's from estate agent, of these three items, okay, I'm at the wrong location, probably not the right size. I'm okay to accommodate the right size, but I just drop the price. Would it sell? Will I get rid of my...
Yeah.
Sorry?
So I'll give you the longer version of the answer.
Okay. And then I think we'll give the short one.
Behaves,
Sorry.
yeah.
Yes.
Then you can sort of gauge what is the short answer.
Okay.
Because
Sure.
basically, if you look at the current situation, what developers are doing, at the national level, we have the home ownership campaign. Under the home ownership campaign umbrella, basically, whoever the developers are participating will have to give at least 10% discount from the selling price. So this is more like regulated at national level. Everybody will basically adjust the price on a 10% discount. Beyond that, what do the developer do? What has they been doing? Basically, there are some other elements. From our perspective, what we see is there are challenges concerning, for example, the bank's valuation. Yeah, the bank may feel that what is the fair market value for a property in Kuala Lumpur, in the area of city center, say it is worth 900,000. When the developer feel that it is in fact 1 million. So what do? So from the developer's perspective, most probably what I can say is they will give some kind of rebates. The selling price would still be 1 million, but beyond the 1 million price is they give a rebate to make sure that eventually the buyer will be able to also get loan. Yeah. So at the same time, because you know, this is a big ticket item that needs to be done for reason that house is a necessity. House is also a way for wealth creation. If you don't buy a house now, we have been long enough in the industry. I think when we first met, when we talk about terrace house, for example, in Nilai, then was about 200,000. Yeah. You go to Nilai now, the price is about 400,000-500,000. So what it means is, had I wait and did not exercise my option to buy then I would still be paying, I still can't afford to buy a house. So it's really about making sure that eventually a transaction can happen. So from an industry perspective, the short answer to your question is, if we drop price, is that the better way to do? Yes, but it should be driven by also understanding of the market. It's not just about price. Sometimes your product is not the kind of thing that they want, then most probably you will still not be able to sell, even if you sell it at cost. So I'll pass it on to I Ching.
I totally agree with Surveyor Muhammad Salim. You know, we go back many years. You know, I think we've known each other for 20 years. I think way back. Yeah. So when you talk about pricing, I feel pricing is important. That means if a property, I mean, I just look at it on a sub-sale point of view. Just take a simple sub-sale situation. Let's say a property that is facing a T-junction. Okay, so people always say that is less preferred for whatever reason, so it's less preferred. But if you drive around localities like maybe Bandar Utama, or you drive into localities of very established areas, you will notice that they are occupied. So somebody bought, okay, and then sometimes I also see it up for sale, and then after a while I see the signboard is down, the property is sold. So is it because of the location was so fantastic? There's a T-junction, they purposely went all out to get it, or they wanted to be in that neighborhood, and this was the price of the property that they could enter at. So that made pricing an important factor for that particular scenario. So whether you say that if the property is wrongly positioned, that means the size was wrong. Let's say the demand there was big, but all your units there are small. But if your price was adjusted, you could combine the small units and make a big unit. So to me, it is a factor of price. A location, of course, you cannot help lah. I mean, okay, you could compromise the location by pricing as well. That means if let's say I lived in a 1,000 square feet in KL, I pay 3 million. But that same 3 million, if I lived somewhere else, I could get 10 times the size. Maybe I might be able to compromise my, my consideration depending. So yes, I think pricing is very important. You price it right, you will never have a problem. Yeah. Okay. So it can compensate the wrong size. It can compensate the wrong type. It can also compensate to a certain extent the wrong location. Also possible. I'm not saying it's a one-off solution, but it's a very strong solution.
Yeah, this thing about pricing, I'm not a property person, but I can tell you when developers start doing the marketing gimmick of number 1, discount, number 2, rebate. Okay, so discount and rebate is treated separately. It actually distorts your data, don't you feel that? Because at the same time, because I'm a tax consultant, sometimes when we help our clients to actually file more complicated RPGT, real property gain tax, we get mixed up by whether there is any further document about the rebates and whatever, and actually the wrong real property gain tax is actually being calculated. Since this is a tax-related matters, maybe I just let everybody know here as well that the RBGT audit that is active is a lot of the time relating to this matter, meaning the information about what actually is the price of the property was actually not coming from one single document. So hence there are things to actually look into. So, okay, a business question. If I give up the MOC, I mean the HOC, I don't want to take the HOC, but I do a 30% cut on my price. You said to pay your stamp duty. I don't want to participate on HOC. Cut 30% of the price. Will I then deep dive into the question again? I'm trying to see I think can sell the property or not. Cut the 30%, give our HOC and compromising this, compromising that, and pass it to MIEA and say, MIEA, I have 200 overhang properties for your agents to clear. Do you think that to a certain extent they probably will be able to resolve some of these units, or what is your take on that?
Certainly, it's always a matter of pricing, and of course, that's actually one of the ways how some of our members transacted a lot of Prima properties. I mean, you'd be surprised that you would think that affordable housing has no issue selling, but you'd be surprised, the affordable housing has its challenges as well because of, again, the mismatch. That means possibly the wrong location or the wrong type of property and things like that. But given the incentive that was introduced about 2 years ago when MIA got involved with Prima to work a collaboration to help them to our members to dispose some of the assets, they did tremendously well. We had one agent member in Kuching who sold no less than 4,000 units of affordable housing, and we had another member agent in I think in Terengganu or Kelantan, I can't recall, also sold easily 2,000 units over there. And the rest, if you look at Prima homes today, you'll find very few balance within these couple of localities because of the initiative pushed together, the government agency working hand in hand together with the property players. I think that's how collaborations are worked. Yeah, together. Then we work out a plan. May not necessarily be 30% discount. It could be an adjustment of the pricing, the packaging, and things like that to make it more, make the buyers more able to buy it. Because at the end of the day, affordable housing is for them. So we are just impressing upon them to get on to the property bandwagon, hedge against inflation. If you don't buy today, you think tomorrow will be cheaper? Next year is the price coming down? Don't you know that the raw material cost is shooting sky high? We have logistics issues, transporting, steel pricing and all that. I think surveyor Muhammad Salim will say, headache for developers now because the cost is going up. So do you think the price will come down?
Yeah. Daniel, you wanted to say something?
Yes,
Yeah.
a lot. A lot.
I'm trying to look into the timing as well, right? So, you know, so that we can also,
No,
please,
I keep
go
it
ahead,
short.
go
I
ahead.
keep it short.
Yeah.
It's all again go back to data. Right?
Yeah.
What are the properties that are hanged over today? Mostly are either super overpriced bungalow or semi-D landed and high rise. Who are the people that will eventually be able to look into it with a discounted price? Professionals. We have 7 million professionals working professionally in Malaysia, out of which 5 million are clearly stating, I am going to be remote working. Which means what I'm looking at as an alternative compared to the 3 studio room purchased in a high rise at 50% discount cost price, as Ai-Ching was mentioning just now, and combine together and make 1,500 square feet at a decent price, I look at a 2,400 square feet double-story house in Nilai, which I can buy for probably half of the amount of the 3 units in city center. Why I go to Nilai? Because I just need a good internet connection to work from home. I go back to KL once in a week, or even less than that. That is the future direction. And unfortunately, this group of people, from numbers, the research, data, again, analyzed, are our target market if we want to dispose 70%, 60% of this unsold unit. Providing developers are willing to use not the scissor, because the scissor is not strong enough, they need to use a chain
Chainsaw.
or a axe or something like that to cut the price.
Yeah, because in business, sometimes, I mean, one thing that we normally talked about today, sometimes is, do I wanted my cash flow to come in, or do I wanted to live with a legacy of profitability?
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
On
yeah.
a certain property that is actually in my stocks, right? So I think under the pandemic, the shifting of mindset for business owners who say that, hey, you know, my survival strategies right now is I need to manage my cash management. So cash management is an important thing that I have to manage. So people are supposed to be of today, business of today, I don't know about developers. I hope the developers looked into this as, look, maybe there are certain things I need to cut loss. Maybe HOC may not be a strong enough muscles. I need to resolve myself. I probably have to do something. My cut loss is so that I can move on. I can move ahead to something else, right? So, you know, things like that. Now, okay, let's move away from this overhang a little bit. Just out of curiosity, the overhang. Now, into the rental market. What is the situation with the rental market at the moment? Yeah, I'm actually curious to actually find out. With the pandemic in the pictures, etc. Even though we are moving into a post-pandemic, and Daniel was actually saying that, hey, you know, even though I'm out of the pandemic, it doesn't mean that I'm going to go back to office, right? I'm probably was still pretty much working from home if I can actually have a proper home office. In fact, the government is also promoting. The government is also promoting and giving incentive for working from home, allowing employer to actually, an employee, both was actually having certain incentive pertaining to this. And this didn't come this year, this actually came last year already. You know, so this working from home or working at multiple location is something is in the picture. So with the pandemic, or the new normal being in the picture, what is our rental market focus? Are we still focusing on expatriates who are really our tenant of today? I would like to actually seek comment from everyone, and I'd like to start from Ai-Ching. And maybe when you make the comment, you can let us know more by segregations of residential being one, commercial being another one, and maybe industrial properties being another one, you know, because 3 will be very different in characteristics and needs as well.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Agnes. Yes, rentals, right? Okay, I think I'll just quickly share screen. Well, so what happened was MIA, we did a survey among real estate practitioners and got feedback from them, how they felt the market was in their view, how their business has been impacted by the COVID and things like that. So I'll just quickly pop out this slide that shows the rental part, since you're talking about rental, right? Okay, I hope you can
Yes.
see my slide.
Yes, we can.
Oops,
Yeah.
I think it went to my, wait, hang on.
Hold on. Yeah.
Hang on,
Okay.
hang on. I think it went to another slide already. Hold on. Okay, so basically we did that survey and we wanted to find out from all our members what they, it's not just our members, it's across the real estate sector. So it's not just limited to members, and firms also responded as well as individuals and including RENs. So it was quite a good cross section of respondents. Okay, let me pop up the screen again.
Okay.
Oh dear, I don't know what happened there. Okay, all right, now you all can see, right?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I
Maybe
won't
you
go
put
through
on the
every
slideshow.
bit. I'll just quickly go through to the section on rental. Okay. So if you
Okay.
look at the rental market, right, of course, we broke it down to industrial, commercial, high-rise residential, and landed residential, because we felt that if you lump the two together, then you won't get an actual picture of the residential sector, because they're really broken into these two categories. So overall, of course, if everyone can see, overall,
We can see.
the general sentiments indicates decrease of course. That was the what for commercial properties, because businesses are mainly badly hit by the effects of the pandemic, so landlords have been pressured to reduce the rents. So that's why when you call it movement of rental rate, there is a huge rental reduction when you look at 58%, and also so 81% actually in total decreased, is because of the pressure on the landlords, where the businesses are suffering and they need to either reduce the rent, or the tenant cannot pay anymore and they ended up having that place vacant. So that was one of the reasons. But for residential properties, a huge proportion of the decrease, we cannot say that the rental rate all decreased across the board. No. The reason why the general feedback was decreased is because a lot of landlords and tenants, in fact, landlords are moving on to more compassionate grounds, and they're promoting healthy landlord and tenant relationship. The landlords are trying to understand the tenant also understands the landlord, and because the loan moratorium has helped the landlords, so the landlord are passing on some of that so-called benefit to the tenants, and they have adjusted the rental rates accordingly. So rental rates are really not so much based on the pandemic, so to say, but it's also very much based on supply. Is there a lot of units now available to, for rent that I can choose? If I can, then I would just pitch on price, you see. But if let's say the demand is strong and the supply is few, then the rents will remain to be strong. So this analysis basically just tells us that, yes, generally there is a decrease in all sector rental rates based on the findings. But of course, the worst is the commercial sector.
The worst is the commercial sector. Okay. So, Surveyor Muhammad Salim, I would like to actually hear from you from developer standpoint. Now I clear my property out by cutting down 30% and no more overhang, and my poor owner can't rent it out.
Okay. In reality, just like what I Ching said, for a developer to give 30% discount, I don't think that is, there may be situation, but it's going to be rare and very few in between. Yeah, because from the position of developers' profit, we can't even make anywhere upside of 20% in a lot of the time, because the cost to do business for property is a lot. And you're looking at an investment where the risk of developers is very high during the construction period, which runs anywhere between 2 to 5 years. So I suppose you don't expect much of that. What I would like to encourage my fellow developers and the industry is to accept that the need for houses are there. If you can't buy now, at least you should exercise the option through innovative financing like rent to own. Yeah. Some banks have offered this. Basically, you take a rental position first, you lock in the sales price, you exercise your rights in the context of maybe 3 to 5 years. Because like it or not, 3 years or 5 years down the road, the house price will still be more expensive than it is today. Yeah. So I suppose the industry needs to realize this. And for the purchasers in the market, it is something, it's a need. You like it or not, you need this. So it's either you want to exercise now, you're going to exercise later. Rent to own allows you to have that both options, getting your lock-in price now, but being able to exercise in the future. So I suppose that clears the air in terms of the industry as a whole. On the aspect of rental, I just like to share some actual data. If you talk about commercial, the company that I work with, UDA, for example, we have malls in various places in Malaysia. And this is in fact one of the pain points the last 2 years. And collectively, we give rental rebates up to about 70 million. So these are not small numbers. But for us, it's like we own this mall for more than 20 years. So we have gone through good times. I think what is important is we see our tenant as our partners in the mall, and we know things are not good. It's a pain to us, but I would say we are able to maintain our occupancy beyond 90%. So otherwise, then most probably a lot of the time they will close shop, and you will see a lot of empty spaces. That is also not good. So what I would like to encourage my fellow mall owners is also to be more compassionate, and to be able to see not just during the pandemic period, but you are basically, as an industry, for example, the mall employs, I think, close to 1 million people. So what it means is, if you are able to sustain under this pandemic time, then probably this 1 million people will still have jobs. And this is the little thing that we do to make sure that the industry prosper. So on the other hand, I would like to encourage the population as a whole to also you have to follow SOPs, but don't be shy to go to the mall, spend some money, buy stuff, have your food. Because once we do all these economic activities, then you start to see prosperity trickle down the line to the nation as a whole. So, be positive. Don't worry. We have to live with the pandemic. This is now called endemic, something that you have to live with.
Yes.
And I suppose we have to be smart enough and to make sure that we take the necessary precaution, not to the extent of basically locking ourselves in. Life needs to go on under the new normal, and enjoy. Have food, maybe perhaps have tea or coffee sometimes. I suppose Aiching, Daniel, we used to see each other, that kind of thing. And if you just take a stock of when was the last time we meet, it runs more than 2 years already.
That's right. Thank you, Sir Muhammad Salim.
A lot of the time it's just virtual meeting.
That's right. So there is no longer this thing called fellowship. We miss a lot of fellowship moments. Yes, we have a lot of connectivity and networking, but I think the casual fellowship is still quite important, and that is something that the digitalizations or the technology is not able to assist in that manner. Just wanted to deep dive a little bit onto that particular more issue. You see, nowadays more are being competed by the technology of e-mall, right? So we have like Shopee, which is without a real floor space, but cater a lot more merchant. We have Lazada was actually having exactly the same situation. So actually, generally for the survival of the mall, right? Like I said, it's no longer the pandemic issue. Property is no longer the pandemic issue. The property is already the new normal issue. So like even my own sharing, I always tell, no, it is not a pandemic, it's a new normal issue whereby people do things differently, right? So under this kind of situation, what generally, like for example, maybe either UDA or from FIAPSI point of view, what are the countermeasures? What are the countermeasures to actually make the mall still prefer footprint during the weekends, right? Like I think was it Sunway? Sunway was actually having an app, you know, to actually help their merchant to also having this O2O kind of thing. What about, you know, like for other developers? Maybe we can share a bit. Yeah.
So basically, my advice to all the mall operators as well as the tenant is to embrace digital technology. Uda, for example, we have Angsana Virtual Mall. Basically, our tenant can coexist whilst they have physical stores in the mall. They also have a platform that they can work on and basically get orders. And basically, you look at this, when you buy stuff, basically that stuff needs to arrive to you. That whole ecosystem means there is a factory, there is manufacturing, there's a delivery guy that needs to send over to you. And imagine this, I put an order and the thing is available in the mall, say Angsana Johor Bahru. So I just take my car, drive to the mall, and that's it, I collect my stuff. The satisfaction is even more satisfying rather than just hearing the doorbell being ring by the delivery guy and taking it in a box. Yeah. So I suppose as a person, you would love to do this. And the whole idea is basically to make sure that the business owners in the mall are also able to have their presence in the online mall.
Okay.
So they have to embrace technology, they have to embrace the digital world, and they have to also coexist with the current bricks and mortar store.
Yeah.
Even a lot of the time when you go to some of these stores, they don't carry all the inventories. Yeah. You go to the shop and then say, I need this, but this color is not the one that I want. That person may basically tell you, sir, we have that available. Can you go to our apps and then basically put in your order, and then that things will be delivered either directly to you, or you can also come another time to collect it at the store. So this idea is basically you allow for, apart from the mall environment, which we currently see, the need for so-called fulfillment center, where you allow this to happen rather like quickly when it has to be done, rather than waiting, looking at the app, your goods is being delivered, the tracking say it's going to be delivered to you in 3 days. Now it's like, okay, I've done my order, payment is done, I can just go into the store and collect the goods. So that's even more satisfying. Yeah. And a lot of the time when you look at this, it's really about bragging rights. Yeah. Recently, when we talk about iPhone, everybody wants to say, I got the first one. Yeah. So it's about bragging rights. And imagine this, the delivery will say, take you another two weeks. So you lose 2 weeks of bragging rights. Is that right, Aichi? Okay.
So, you know, nowadays, you know, like property selling is like, you know, you need to really understand your market needs in a way as well, isn't it? Otherwise, you can't fit it. Daniel, you wanted to say something regarding this topic, is it? Daniel, I saw you put out your hand.
Yeah,
please?
Definitely.
Please.
We talk about technology, we talk about the future.
Yeah.
And actually, it was already 4 or 5 years ago that looking into studies and numbers again, we have been coming up with a number of ideas for property developers in terms of shopping mall of the future. The last I did was in 2019, right before the beginning of the pandemic. We were rolling a ball in the south, in Johor, designing the new shopping mall. Shopping mall is going to become a place where you go and try what you want to buy. It's no more the place where you buy. You go there because you want to live an experience. Customer experience is worldwide the password, the keyword since last year onward. Virtual and physical experience. As we were saying, we are lacking of physical connection, socialization. Now, Zuckerberg and Facebook and many others are talking about this metaverse, which is the virtual space to meet people in the future, is much more advanced than a simple Zoom. So that will be even a worst enemy of our shopping mall. Shopping mall should become really a experience center for developers to squeeze their brain with architects, with experience creator, with marketer, to regenerate, recreate an environment attractive for people. People are going to the shopping mall and do not buy physically, they buy online directly in the shop. What Engineer Salim was saying just now is absolutely right. You give the double platform to your tenants, physical and virtual. Physical, I am here with my shop. You come, you try, you like, you buy online. Here at the mall, you buy online because I don't have stock. In the moment you buy online, I let you go around and have a Starbucks, experience my shopping mall with your kids. By the time you want to go out, at the exit, there will be the bag of your purchase waiting for you. There is this very famous talk 5-6 years ago of the last mile challenge in logistics. Okay, we are shortening it nowadays because it can be done in a beautiful way, and this type of solution might be helping in resolving another huge problem, which is the lack of occupancy for commercial space. I think was showing the number on shop lot, right? And it's going to be becoming worse and worse in terms rental is dropping. Why? Because there is no demand. Why there is no demand? Because 50% of my staff are working from home, or even 100%. I look at myself. I am 100% online. I have 25 people working for me from home. I do not have a physical office any longer. And I don't need it. I just need a co-working space once in a while. So the commercial space of the future also needs to be redesigned and rethought accordingly to the actual demand of people. And who are our people? Are the 120 to 50, 20 to 45. And we need to focus also on the 55 and above to attract them, because they are going to grow bigger and bigger in terms of age group size within the next 10-15 years. So it's really a totally brand new approach that we all need to give to the planning, management, and eventually, how can I define it, rethinking the way we use commercial and residential spaces. This is what is going to happen in the future. Very challenging. I'm very excited, being very honest, because I can see huge opportunities in the making.
When I look at iChing's numbers, right, I'm actually a bit surprised about residential actually drops in terms of the rental, its rental rate, isn't it? You know, because in my little logic thinking, I would have thought that at this time of new normal, the rental of a bigger size unit may be better in terms of smaller size unit, because I may need to always have one room for me to actually have this home office solution. Yeah, wouldn't that be the situation, or am I just think, or my thought is only textbook thoughts? I mean, from an agent's perspective.
Yeah, I mean, ideally, that's what we think would be likely. That means people are needing more space and all that. But then at the same time, they are pressured by the fear and uncertainty of their employment as well as their business income. So I think there is a balancing between these two, what you want and what you think you can. So I think that's where it's at. Yeah, that means, of course, after we all work from home, we say that, wow, how nice if each of us have an office. My husband has one, I have one, everyone has one. But realistically, can we have so much space? And, and will it meet the requirements of the financing part of it? Are we able to get a bigger place? And how stable do you think your income will be in the next 1 or 2 years before you make any big commitments like that? Because the moment you have to rent a property, right, there's always that what we call it, the no break clause that comes in on the first term of your tenancy. So that means if you want to shift, then that first year or the first 2 years, you cannot break the tenancy. If you break the tenancy, you end up paying the whole duration. So a lot of people may not want to do that. So that's the reason why we saw more renewals. The agencies as a whole, we saw more renewals. They adjusted the rate, but the tenants are not like jumping to another place. They
I
are
see.
renewing where they are. So
Because of the agreement. That
yeah,
was because
I
of the
think-
tenancy agreement.
one of it is the fear of the tenancy agreement. When you enter into a new one, every time you enter, you're locked. So if you're already in an existing place, then you can basically serve 2 months notice and you're off to a new place. But if you're coming to a new one, then you'll be locked in for at least the first year or the first 2 years, depending on your tenancy agreement. So yes, I think what people want and what they can based on their income, that is the consideration that has led to the survey results, I believe.
I see. So meaning actually I wanted to be, ideally I wanted to be having maybe just one extra room kind of apartments, right? But because of the uncertainty, probably I just hold it, I negotiate. As a tenant, I never really have the opportunity to negotiate as much, as of now. I use my power to negotiate first, and then I'll have a look and see kind of thoughts, is it? What about from Fiapsi, from Surveyor Muhammad Salim, on the
Thanks,
rental?
Okay, on the rental part, what I can see is the behavioral change. You see, take for example, the younger set of people, the 20s, the one which have started work. Used to be, they take a rental of a house and occupy with maybe 3 or 4 of their friends. So if I take a rental of 1,000, basically, I'm only paying 250 because I have 3 other colleagues taking the same rental. Given the pandemic, their parents would encourage them to just take a smaller unit and stay on your own. So what it means is, from a position of where I used to pay 250, now I go for smaller units, but in fact I'm paying more. I may be paying 600. Yeah, but to the tenant, to the landlord, most probably those units used to be fetching 1,000 rental or even 800. So it's a discount to what used to be, but to the buyer is in fact a premium. Yeah, that's one. So in this context, what it means is from a position of 1 unit demand, now it becomes 4 unit demand. Whilst the overall pricing may be adjusted downwards, but what you see is more occupancy requirement because of the number which is from 1 into 4. Yeah. So these are things that I suppose we need to go thorough, and this is where the expertise of people like Dr. Daniel will be able to basically go down and really look at the details. So it's not just the so-called the broad stroke. The broad stroke says there are reduction. What we need to see is what are the underlying factors that brings in the reduction. Because had you interpolated the reduction in rental data and the take-up of rental space, most probably you will see this trend coming.
Meaning the take-up rate actually it's okay, but the rental has come down.
Yes.
Is that the statistic?
Yeah.
Aichi, over? Yeah. Okay. That's very interesting. So, okay, just now we touched a little bit already, but I just wanted to just seek the opinion from my fellow, from my distinguished panelists over here. Is the government's perks, right, whether it's a stamp duty exemptions or whether it's RBGT, whether it works to boost the property market? Maybe we can comment on from primary market, and after that we comment on secondary market. Maybe I start from Surveyor Muhammad Salim.
In a lot of the primary markets, these incentives are considered as the norm. So a lot of the players are basically giving you free MOTs, free legal fees, that sort of stuff. But in the secondary market, most of the time, the buyer needs to pay for all this.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the government perks, is it help to actually boost the property market when it comes to property transactions, whether it's a primary market sales or whether it's secondary market sales, from the numbers that you have?
From the primary market, which are basically from developers, I would say the incentive of stamp duty exemption, all this is helpful. Yeah.
Okay.
On the secondary market, the biggest impact would be coming in out of the real property gains tax exemption. Yeah.
So let's see from the floor, from the ground, like from IT perspective, does the perks helps in in the property transactions by your agents?
Okay, so when you talk about perks that the government has given us, we talk about what happened this year first. So the government has basically given stamp duty exemption for first-time home buyers for up to 500,000. I mean, not including HOC, because I think Surveyor Salim already covered HOC. So I'll talk about secondary market that can be applied to secondary market. Yeah. So up to 500,000, then you get your MOT as well as your loan documentation stamp duty waived or exempted under this program. And this program actually runs from the 1st of January 2021 until 31st of December 2025. So it wasn't a one-off thing. So it's something that will continue even beyond this year. So that is to encourage first-time home buyers, 500,000 and below. Okay, so that's one. So the second thing was the RPGT. So the RPGT, there was an exemption presently, which started from the 1st of June, I think 2020, and expiring 31st of December 2021, where an individual, it only applies to individual, yeah? The individual will have tax RPGT exemption for up to 3 residential properties transacted in that duration. So that was, of course, when it was first announced, was very exciting. And we even got feedback from research data through the Good Office of Property Guru, through my research, I think that's their data arm. And they said that the moment that announcement came in, that really created and stimulated the secondary market, and transactions started to happen after that announcement was made. So then fast track to 30th of October, where the budget was it 30th? Okay, where budget was announced, budget 2022. And the budget 22 basically says that there will be RPGT exemption, but only in the 5th year, it's 0%. And there's no mention whether it is 1 property, 2 or 3. We're not too sure. And so if you were to compare the two, right, wouldn't you say that the existing RPGT exemption more exciting than what is in the budget 2022? So that's why a lot of people ask for our comments and say that, hey, what do you think of the RPGT? Will it spur the market? Will it boom? Suddenly there'll be a lot of sale, happening in the secondary market. I say, well, this was happening already in the 1st of June until now. This new extension seems a little bit inferior to our current benefits. So if you ask me, I think it'll be a minimal effect.
I see. Okay. Daniel, what's your thoughts? The government perks?
Well, minimal, because I don't have data yet on this. The logic and the sense of direction is the RPGT brought in by the budget is definitely, to me, I look at it as a threat for developers, because it is incentivizing transaction in the secondary market, definitely. If I'm looking only at what has been announced, not yet tabled, announced at the end of October, I wouldn't say that excite me if I am a developer. What Ai Cheng was saying just now makes really a lot of sense, and I agree with her. There should have been different type of measure. There should have been different type of stimulus. We needed to revitalize 2 different markets. And the problem is, unfortunately, the government is not really looking or listening to all parties, to all the stakeholders. You cannot listen only to property developers and real estate agents. You should also listen to banks, valuers, data centers. Understand what are the spending habit of the households. Understand where stays the purchasing power of household. Then only you can propose a law. You do not have to make happy any industry, which is the property industry. You need to make happy the industry and the rakyat. And again, big data can help in this. Problem is, 1, lack of, 2, not really huge ability in reading data in a proper manner before a measure is enforced. Now they are reading after. They don't do predictive analysis. Algorithm and data are allowing you to do very precise predictive analysis. I can tell you personally, I can tell you what property will be needed in any place of Malaysia within 5 years just through the analysis of data. That is what we should be looking at for the future. And it's not only talking about residential. We are talking about a number of different. PropTech can really help working hand in hand. PropTech is what, basically? Is a technology infrastructure which is made available to professionals and stakeholders of the real estate or built environment at large, from construction to management of buildings, to do their work in a better way, in an easier way, with less burden, with less cost. And it's there for everyone to use. And it doesn't cost much. That is the best.
If I am to play, if I am to wet the head of the government will say, oh, right, yeah, what else do you need from me? You see, there are a few important, this question probably is hypothetical. This probably is hypothetical. Generally, what do you hope to see in terms of whether policies or whatever, or perks, that can actually drive the property market at the moment? You see, in the property industry, you have a few important stakeholders, right? You have investors, meaning the landlord, all right? You have the developers and its ancillary supporting partners, right? Being whatever, the construction material, etc., etc. So you have those who help to develop. You have those who buy and rent out. You have those who is the user of the properties, right? So as far as the government is if you look into the perks, right? HOC, I take care of the developers, right? So I'm doing my level best to help you. As a landlord, I'm giving you tax incentive. I'm giving you tax deductions when you actually suffer 30% discounts in your rental. I give you this extra rental discussion for you. I take care of the landlord, and I take care of the buyers as well as the sellers. When especially the sellers when it comes to the LBGT. Okay. Do I take care of the buyers? Okay, I don't really take care of the buyers per se, but I probably will have my measures when the property is rolled out, because I've been bridging loans, I have this and that, I have this, all kinds of things to ensure the property are actually, complete and give it back to you as, you as the person who buy the property. But the government will say, hey, I already done my level best. But the level best that the authority has done, if it doesn't drive the market, if you are the government today, the four are sitting in the right authority, what will you roll out? What will you roll? Let me start from Daniel.
I volunteer.
You volunteer, okay. So everyone come up with only one policy, only come up with one policy. Hypothetical, we are a shadow we are a shadow government right now.
Oh,
sorry.
Wow. No problem. Well, I will look into the data. As a government, if I am the government, I will look into the data and I will design a series of policies according to different areas of Malaysia. I cannot come out with a federal covering all in one. It doesn't work. It has never been working. Greater KL needs something that is totally different from what Kelantan needs, Kuantan needs, Penang needs, and Johor Bahru needs. So I will look specifically in different areas. I will look at the rakyat first, not at property developers, stakeholders of the industry, but I will use at the destinatory. Because if I read what they need, I can design my policies to attract construction towards that direction. And I will adopt a little bit of, allow me to say, ESG and SDG principle in my perks giving out. I give, but you also need to give, my friend. Green certification compulsory, universal design compulsory, complete universal design, which is not only a slide.
All right.
Every unit, I've been visiting, I just take 1 minute. I've been in an office tower, which has been awarded with a green rating, GBI rating, quite high. I cannot nominate the tower or the developer, but I've been seeing in this car park every floor having 4 OKU car park. I am an OKU and I park in this area, which is perfect, ample space on the 2 sides. I pull out my chair, my wheelchair. I sit on my wheelchair, I go at the door, which signs lift. I open the door, and once 1 out of 2 floors of car park, I have what? Staircase.
I see. So you wanted to actually have a building infrastructures that is a lot more community friendly, I suppose, right?
That is one. That is one of the things.
Only one. Only one. Only one. Only one. I am the parliament speaker now. Only one. Okay, sure. Sorry about that. Maybe one more.
No. It's okay. It's okay. I stop here. Be more ESG directed. SDG. It has to be a must. There is no alternative.
True. In fact, I choose my office locations. It's also because it is a green building, right? And then it is fiber optics, right? So meaning the technology infrastructures and of course the transportation's hub. You know, when I look for where to park my office location, is I honestly look for what you are saying, basically, because in fact that is an important, I think, for a lot of tenants, a lot of company tenants right now, especially, wanted to be able to look into how they can be a responsible corporate citizen. So hence the selections of the building, to be honest, it does being taken into consideration. I believe if you are looking at big corporates coming in, and if I think under MIEA, any of the agency being approached by any of the Fortune 500 company to look for a building to house, I believe what Dr. Daniel said about, no, I need to be those will be the characteristic of a building that required to be have in order for them to have the ability to so-called like consider. So I do agree with you, this is like things in the future. Yeah. Just wanted to hear from I Ching, if you are policy makers now, actually what kind of policy that actually needs to boost the property industry right now?
Okay, thanks, Agnes. Actually, of course, we got a lot now. We got a long list, right? But you only asked me to pick one, right? So I only pick one. Okay. What we wanted was, we always feel that at MIA, in fact, we always feel that the secondary market is what drives the entire property market. Because if the secondary market is strong, the primary market will follow suit. Why do I say this? If let's say you bought a property in a primary market, and because the secondary market is so strong, by the time the property is completed, you would have made maybe 30% went up, like those good old days, right? Everybody used to buy from developers, and then the moment it's completed, you make that 30% straight. That's how those days, what Surveyor Saleh will know. Everybody jumped onto the bandwagon to buy new project because why? The moment it's completed, I make 30% clean straight. I sell it off and on I go to the next property. But because no focus at all was given to the secondary market, therefore the secondary market is just hovering. It's not strong. It cannot give you that kind of guarantee anymore. So therefore, it affects the buying confidence in the primary market. So, if imagine if I told everyone now, okay, you go buy in the primary market, you buy from any projects from UDA. The moment it's completed, 30% increase straight. Sure. Wow, who won't buy? But because the secondary market was left out of the views of the policymakers, that they have overlooked, or they didn't think the secondary market was that important, but we always felt that the secondary market is what drives the entire sector. So when they created HOC, it promoted one sector. It left out the secondary market again. So what we wanted to see was a movement and a jump start in the secondary market, which is what we proposed a certain type of HOC for the secondary market, following after the model of the HOC in the primary market. And we feel that if there was savings for the seller, there's savings for the buyer, and there's ease of financing when it comes to interest-only loans for the buyers, maybe for the first 5 years, then we feel that that would be the greatest stimulus for the entire sector. So that's why when the budget came out, right, we were very disappointed. I mean, we were in shock that we hope for more engagement with the ministries to be able to tell them what we feel, and then see their feedback and then try to, to come up with something that would really be a impactful decision made. So, but they did give elements of it. They gave a little bit of RPGT, they give a little bit of stamp duty and there, a little bit, but not a very complete,
to make secondary market a comparison alternative to primary market by lowering down or helping on the entry price, right?
It helps
number one. Yeah, in terms of the loan, whereby, in terms of if I can just do the interest serving for the first X number of years, so that's my outlay issue. Number two is if the duty is being taken care of, for a short period of time, that actually help the cash outflow of the buyer, like a primary market. So it became so-called something for you to compare. You can compare. So certainly, you're putting both in the same level playing field in a way, right? For any buyer to consider. I think I like that. It
wasn't for it's not for all types of property. Of course, we focus on residential. We focus on a certain price range and below. Not everything, certain price range and below, because at the end of the day, we need to respect that there is a limitation. The government cannot give out so much incentive, there's unlimited budget, but something that will help the first time home buyers and buyers in a certain category, basically the B40 and the the M40 guys.
Surveyor Muhammad Salim, our yang berhormat. Now we are yes.
Yeah, it's a tough question, but basically what we need to understand is this is something which is in fact more like the wish list of the people.
Yes.
So I would say in 3-letter word, SLLC, not limited liability company, but rather liberalization, listening, and collaboration. So basically, first on the aspect of listening, what the government needs to do is to listen to industry more. Have a lot of consultation to understand what is the actual position. Because sometimes when you start to listen to those who shout a lot, you are basically depriving the others. Yes. The silent majority may not be taken into consideration. So therefore, as a government, I would say first listen so that then you can see what are the actual vibration of the market as a whole. And the second part is to liberalize. Property industry is very far-reaching. If you look at just from the perspective of a property development, there are infrastructure that needs to be done. There are a lot of things that needs to be in terms of services, utilities, charges that have to be paid to the local government, the construction industry that basically built the house. The rest of the ecosystem is big enough. So what it means is we must be able to liberalize this. There were a lot of controls, like for example, at the moment for utility to be connected, the cost is borne by the developer, which eventually passed down to the purchaser. But the benefit of the utility is enjoyed by the utility providers. So why can't we liberalize in such a way that they should be carrying the capital expenditure rather than the developers? Yeah. So by doing that, most probably you will be able to bring down the cost structure for residential purchase, then eventually means reflect on a lower selling price. The reason why developer cannot push down the price because we have to bear all this. Someone needs to pay. So our offtake is really from house purchaser. So the third part is collaboration. So when you look at this aspect of trying to make sure the industry move at the right direction, a few parties in the ecosystem needs to collaborate and be able to then work cohesively to make sure that we have limited resource. We need to, for example, create a new township somewhere. All this needs to be done, the collaboration. The developer needs to provide the land, the infrastructure provider needs to basically prioritize the infrastructure to that particular area. The market then needs to basically move there. So this is really about making sure that all this will be able to be done in a more mature manner. So hopefully, as a journey, then you will see property industry as a whole maturing over time. Yeah. So 3-letter word, LLC, and since we are only allowed to give one policy, so that's it. That's one from me.
Yeah, if you look around the world, actually worldwide property will always live with one important word, that is unaffordable. All right, affordable home is not affordable by the cluster it's actually belonging to, because property always need gearing, right, to actually purchase worldwide. Honestly, this is a global topics, right? So I think, but having said it, I think what Surveyor Muhammad Salim said is actually correct. There are still areas within the cost of constructions, which is something called the compliance cost. The compliance cost. In order to get to that CCC, I got so many things that I have to bring to be ready, and that cost, who shoulder it? Right now, it is shouldered by the developers, and hence it has to be passed down to the buyer. But if that part is being looked into, it probably will be within the unaffordability, but still a certain degree of affordability in the picture. So I think, yeah, we make a very, very, very good housing ministry here, right? In rolling out what may be the right stimulus I think the market will actually need. Now, I'm just curious, none of our young berhormat actually touch on the issues of maintenance, property maintenance. I'm just wondering, is this also deter the the sellability of the secondary market? Maybe seeking opinion from everybody, because if you compare, when I travel to Singapore, if I walk into a 20-year-old or 30-year-old HDB flat, honestly, it still looks pretty decent. It's very decent, as opposed to I walked into just now I said 20 years, right? So I walked into 20, no, not 20 months, but a few years, 5 years, 5 years stratified properties. I probably have a totally different maintenance quality. Will that be also one of the issues with the secondary market? Maybe I wanted to seek I Ching's thoughts about that.
Definitely, that is a consideration. I don't know why Malaysians, we have not elevated the way we do community living as well as the other countries have. Although actually strata living has been with us for many years, I think more, in fact, longer than a lot of our ASEAN friends, but unfortunately, the way we live in a community is still lacking. So yes, I do agree that the property maintenance is very important. The properties that have strong secondary market pricing, especially when you're talking about strata developments, are definitely those that have been well maintained. That means, it's very interesting, buying behaviors. When a property, like a project, like very old already, okay, maybe say 7-8 years. Okay, 7-8 years not old, sorry, I take that back. Then they'll take the sinking fund and they'll do a repainting of the building, right?
Yeah.
And you won't believe it. Every time a strata development goes through a repainting, the price also sikit lebih baik already. I don't know why, but it happens most of the time. So then when there's an upgrade, there is something like that, then it actually improves the appeal of the property as compared to others that are looking a little bit old, or the paints are looking bad, or the outlook doesn't look good. Because at the end of the day, buyers we're still very sentimental. We are very so when we look at something, we want to like it. It's got to give us that kind of feeling, and then we want to buy it. So buying is very emotional. So that's why all these things really play a part. Imagine you come into a place and you see that, wow, the pool is so well maintained, the lifts are so clean, and the common areas are all well kept. Then the next thing is whether that unit is okay or not. But generally, you're sold on the place already. So if that unit is no good, now find another unit lah. It's okay. But because the general of the place looks good. And so that's why now a lot of companies, prop tech companies actually, are adding their value into property management applications that helps with collection of the maintenance fee. Because if you don't collect the maintenance fee, then where's the money to look after the place? Sometimes chicken and egg, the owners will say, why should I pay? The maintenance is so poor. Then after that, the property managers guys will say, you don't pay, so how got money to maintain? So, hey, this is like, which one?
Yeah.
Game lah, So I think everybody need to do their part lah. The property management guys got to do their part. The owners are got to do their part, make their payment promptly, so that there is that right synergy lah. So I think in terms of the maturity of the Malaysians living in strata development, I think that is education and that is time. And hopefully, in time, the society will mature up to it. When we get used to it, when we understand how to live with each other in, harmoniously in a place, sharing things, wow. We like to keep things to ourselves. This is mine, that's your wall, that's your wall, you're part of the thing, and then we like to be very petty about the small little things, yeah. So I think to live in community, to live in a strata, I think we have to prepare our minds that this is what you have to expect. Yeah, give and take, work together.
There's only that much an enforcement can do, right?
Yes.
There's only that much, right? Daniel?
Yeah, I would like to add that we are ready. We are ready. We have plenty of phenomenal solutions which are really based on the relationship between members of the community. Building community, which is what developers unfortunately are not doing. We were talking about the experience in shopping mall a while ago. I can tell you that even in the property buying journey, you think about how bad is the relationship between property developer and buyer since when the buyer has been signing the SPA until the end of the defect liability period, which might be taking few years. In these few years, the poor property buyer is pushed down by request of money, not proper treatment of all this is a total loss in an effort from the developer side to build instead a community which will then be transferred to the strata management body at the right moment. If I am a property manager and I dialogue with all my tenants or residents on one application, which allows me to respond immediately to their issues, which allows me to read the building health. Nowadays there are IoT, Internet of Things, devices that are making even the dumbest building a smart one. Telling me as a property manager, I need you to have a look here because there is a leakage. I need you to look here because there is a power loss or whatever. Lift is not working. and these kind of things. So building are talking to building managers, community is talking to the building manager, and the building manager can manage all these through an app, kind of course with humans, of course with humans. But definitely community platforms are one of the best infrastructures that PropTech nowadays can offer. I wish all of you can have a look into what our members as Malaysian PropTech Association are offering on this. Allow me to do a 15 seconds of advertisement. You visit our website, proptech.org.my, look under directory, all the verticals, and you will have an idea how many different solutions there are, from commercial building to shopping mall to residential community. Exactly what Ai Cheng was mentioning just now. We are here with product ready to help in building the right community.
Okay, well done. Thank you for that. Surveyor Muhammad Salim, on the property maintenance part in terms of policy enforcement and stuff.
So I suppose again here is, if you look at from the observation of other countries, if you talk about, for example, you stay in Australia, try not paying your service charge, see what happened. Whereas in Malaysia, they have the courage even to say, if I pay, what do I get? So I suppose we need to mature ourselves to understand that those costs are in fact required to maintain all this. You want a beautiful property? Yes, you can. But this requires for someone to sweep the floor for a certain number of years, for the building to be repainted. The swimming pool needs to be chlorinated and, clean up every now and then. So there's a lot of things that needs to be done, and all this require money. And all these are in fact collected from the service fee that is charged upon the owner. Now, we need to, I suppose the legal system is already there, but the discipline of enforcement plus I would say the ignorance of some of the people that basically destroys the whole value of the development. So my advice is take it as part of your cost, because otherwise you have to employ your own cleaners and all those things. Now you don't have to. You just pay one shot to the MCs, and the MCs will basically take care of the rest. And there were times when I see this, like the so-called default percentage of owners runs even up to 50%. So in the right frame of mind, that property, that particular development would be suffering. So I suppose we need to ensure that we get, of course, ideally it should be 100% collection.
So the enforcement is important, isn't it?
Yes.
With all this data available, etc., I wonder, is anyone who's being engaged by the government, it would be a good idea to do this review approach. Review approach means, this person, this IC at this location being bad review by their neighbor because this person have not been paying. So, and then you probably will be able to create certain impact to the person and then to force certain collections. I mean, just out of the thoughts. Because
I would rather approach it from a civil society kind of ideas, because basically, say for example, these are basically money that is collected to take care of you and your neighbors.
That's right.
If you don't pay, basically you are depriving your neighbors of the services as well. So on a civil society kind of environment, you should understand this. You should not be relying on enforcement. I would rather take the approach, the property manager needs to be disciplined enough to be the bad guy that basically go around and ask for payment to be made. You don't have to rely on, for example, a law to be enacted to make sure that the party pays. So, and because the reward will also come to the buyers as well. Like Ai Ching said, when the building it looks beautiful from the outside, you go in, it's all well maintained. Most probably that particular property would fetch slight premium from the other development, a similar development in the same neighborhood.
Now, there are some questions that was actually being posted, in the Hopin chat room, which we have actually transferred over here. You may click onto the chat room to take a look. There are questions coming from JD. It talks about RBGT exemptions, whether apply to all kinds of real property, including commercial. To JD, the answer is yes. So the moment that the government actually do this zero RBGT under the budgets, is actually tackled on the owner, which is in this case the permanent residents as well as Malaysian citizen. So the ownership of property under this category of individuals, when they actually sells after 5 years, then the property will be subject to zero RBGT. Now, for your information, JD, we don't talk about exemption. Exemption is different things. So we talk about zero RBGT. So there is, looks like everyone is trying to tap on the experts here and ask advisors. There is this question from anonymous person, say, same area, 2 type of condo, one is new, can use rebate and discount, get 0 down payment, SPA 650 installment, blah, 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 blah. Another one, 400,000, 15 years, second hand, 10% down installment. Which more? I think which one to invest? I guess that's the question. So this is a question of one low outlay, primary market, 650,000. Another one is secondary market, higher outlay, 450,000. Which one the experts will invest in? Interesting questions, right? If you look into the chat room that we have posted. So someone actually asked these questions. I don't know whether this is the right platform for us to answer this, but generally, I think there will be a lot of things that you need to consider at the same time. But just in case, does anyone here wanted to actually attend this question before we move on? Because there are questions that are coming. If not, then we'll move on to the next one. I'm just looking at the question at the same time.
I mean, I can give an attempt on this. I mean, we cannot compare strictly on the price itself, because you got to compare on because usually new projects versus secondary, depending if it's the same locality, the new projects, the offering could be very different. They could have upgrade their quality, infrastructure, design, layouts and everything because of more modern and more new, right? So, and then of course, but if you're comparing between coming up with upfront money versus not coming up with upfront money, that really depends whether that particular individual have the funds to look into it. And it's not just because of installment and down payment. That is not the only consideration when you look at buying a property. It goes far beyond that. Yeah, and I think Agnes is right. This platform is not the right platform, but you can always get in touch with MIEA or any agents. I'm sure that those who have been very established and long in the industry will be able to guide you along.
Yeah, okay. Maybe I just add on a little bit as well, which this is something that I've seen in the property market trend right now, or rather in the past, when the market was actually on its growth, right? We are not treating the primary market property as property. We are treating the buying of the primary market during the past time. We are treating the property market as an investment. All right, so we were not actually selecting whether the property was able to rent out or the property was able to do what. We are only purely focused during those olden days, right, on the fact that there is a return to be made. So I always ask this question when I do a talk: do you love properties? So everybody put up their hand. I love properties. Then I said, why are you asking me RBGT after 5 years? Why still got RBGT? If you love your wife, you don't divorce after 5 years, right? So why you divorce your property after 5 years? Because you may not love your property enough. You are purely looking at the return, right? So hence, guys, property investment is a lot more than just numbers sometimes. And as of today, gone were the days, we are looking at that kind of rates. I still remember there is one property investor, a very seasoned one, asked me this question or challenged me this question, and I thank him for that. He says, Agnes, if you are able to make money in property investments, all right, during the downturn, then I will call you a property guru. If you make money when it's on the uptrend, actually, no, you have not learned a thing about property investment. I thought that was a very, very good information. So I'm so glad that I hear this about what, 10 over years ago, you know? So it is a message that is actually synced in my head that guys, it's not about the entry alone, it's also about the exit, right? It's not just about the entry. Sometimes you are caught with the entry and you live with it forever. Okay, there is one important question here from Anonymous again. Does COVID actually change the landscape of property investment? What will be the trend of property developers in the near future? So we have Surveyor Muhammad Salim here. Would you like to actually attend this? What do you think will be the trend for or what the property developer will need to equip themselves with, the relevancy in order to meet the new market demands or the new market expectations? Over to you.
Okay, basically is when we build houses, we listen to the buyers. And as you know, like for example, whenever we build houses previously, there's no requirement for a home office. Yeah. As far as I suppose this is only new entry that internet connectivity must be able to carry the bandwidth and all. Used to be internet connection is just an option. Yeah. So these are things that basically from the perspective of developers, you need to listen and basically understand the changing needs of the family. Yeah. Now, not just you and me that have to have office in the house, but even the children needs to have room for themselves, for them to be able to attend classes. Yeah.
Yes.
So you can imagine this. So basically, from a developer's perspective is now we need to be a bit more creative to make sure that products would be changing. And I can see that it is changing now. And I suppose you yourself, whenever you are in the market to buy property, do look and ask questions on what are the unique features that the developer can offer, which would fulfill your not just your normal needs, but also something which is over and above the norm. So I suppose the pandemic teaches us in terms of adjusting to the new normal and being able to also stay relevant with the needs of the market. Yeah.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Surveyor Muhammad Salim. Aichi, would you like to actually attend that questions a little bit from an agent's perspective? You know, what do you want to see the developer building in order for you to do the selling?
I think definitely that's a key consideration, although I feel that the developers are also challenged by the fact that, you know, when you want to create more areas, then you need to expand the size of the unit. And when you expand the size of the unit, then you have to consider the selling price of the unit and whether the affordability is still there once you have, you know, that, you know, we always want, but can we, you know, that has always been the question. So definitely, I think design wise, some people are very creative. It need not be a room, it may be a section, it can be an area, it can be somehow walls, and you know, they somehow know how to do it. Compartmentalize where it caters to the needs. But having said that, yes, while we realize the need for space now, and in fact, we also see a trend of movement of people moving outwards, further away from the city, where they can get better quality of air in a way, better landscaping, better environment, further away from the city, because now they do need to commute as often as they did than they did when they needed to go to office every day from 9 to 5. So now a lot of officers are practicing some days you are at home and some days you're in office, or, you know, mix and match. So therefore, it creates demand for properties in the outer areas of the city, which is a good change, because then it would improve the quality of life of people as a general rule. Because if you're living in the city itself, you know what it's like. I've lived in the city myself, and it's no fun going to work, coming back from work, going anywhere, and then the noise, you know, because the city never sleeps, right? So at night you can still hear thumping of, you know, noises, and then of course the air quality, no good. But if, let's say, for the now, with the flexibility a little bit given by the companies, then if I can move further out, I can have, some space, some land, maybe even plant my own veggies, in order, own farming, vertical farming, very popular now. And then I think that the outer, I think the peripheral areas, I expect to see strong demand. Yeah, in the periphery, not so much in the inner city anymore, slightly outwards.
I see. Okay. Daniel, on these questions by Anonymous, does COVID actually change the landscape? Yeah.
Yeah, I follow what Ai Cheng was saying. That is what I was saying at the beginning of our discussion today. Definitely the change is towards suburban areas. There must be, Sheikh Salim has been saying very clearly, unique features. Allow me to add a short few words more. Unique pandemic-proof features, because unfortunately, we have heard from the World Health Organization that it might not be a matter of if a new pandemic will hit, but more on when it will hit. So we better get this mindset ready. Fully agree, we have too much of noise pollution, we have too much of air pollution, we have too much of water pollution. It's time for us to rethink and reinvent. I've been a guest of a panel on architects. Actually, it was a pre-recorded, because casually today I'm here with you live and I'm pre-recorded in architects in a discussion, in a panel discussion about...
That's digital world now.
Yeah, exactly. It was a discussion, a panel discussion with two architects about the use of space in the future and how PropTech, IoT and Metaverse and all these new technology might be able to help.
Right.
So that is what we should be looking at. What I would like to ask to a developer, if he asks me either to manage his project or if he asks me to buy from his project. Those are the things that I will focus the most. Unique features, virtuality ready, meaning high-speed internet must be there, smart city concept and pillars must be all in. For your information, the smart city, all the 6 pillars have been grown. Now there are 7 pillars, and one has been recently added as smart digital infrastructure, which to me, in any new development is a must.
So, we talk about smartphone, we talk about smart home. These are all technologies. Yeah? These are all used by equipment. But I think at developer side, the owner is also looking for smart home, right? Smart living. And then, there are a lot more. I mean, there are so much more that a developer would need to actually drive within themselves in order to actually meet. So that brings the questions of affordability again onto the per square feet. One more time, right? So this is how to actually strike a balance that's important. Now from the questions, there are 3 more questions here, but I wanted to take this one first in the essence of time. Is the questions from Anonymous again. It says, without foreign investor coming to Malaysia or KL, how should we re-strategize our investment from a property investor perspective? Okay, let me see how I re-looked into these questions. Without foreign investor coming into Malaysia, how should we, I believe, how should we re-strategize our investment from a property investor perspective? Maybe foreign expat, without foreign expat or foreign investor. Maybe we tackle it on 2 options. One is like from foreign investors. So meaning, I think what he's asking a question is like, if we are not, if the property market that is actually in the market right now, whether it's unsold unit or whether it's overhang unit or whether it's oversupply or whatever not, if we are without a foreign investor coming into our country to help digest the property, what will be the investment strategies for local property investors? Maybe we start from that.
Okay.
Yes. So maybe
I'll volunteer first. Okay. Now, basically, foreign investors represent certain percentage of the market. To my understanding, this is not big. Yeah, a lot of the time this is not big, so therefore the impact on overall market is not significant. Secondly, is we must see it from two sides of the coin. Why Kuala Lumpur should be selected as an investment for the foreigners is because if you look at as an arbitrage, try and buy a similar type of price of property in KL versus Bangkok, Singapore, and the others, even Jakarta for that matter. Then you will see that in fact, you will have value for money much more for Kuala Lumpur. So the loss is in fact to the investors if they're not entering Kuala Lumpur market. Now for you as an investor, if you are already committed to invest in Malaysia, what you need to understand is what sort of rental can you get? That gives you the yield. And in the span of maybe 5-10 years, would you still be able to enjoy your capital appreciation? So these two combined would be your total return. And I suppose I think would be able to share and demonstrate to you, so far this has been positive. It is even above inflation. So there you are. The choice is yours. Thank you.
Yeah, to Surveyor Muhammad Salim, I just wanted to dive further in onto this particular question. Just now you mentioned that our foreign investor cluster in Malaysia is actually not very high in terms of percentage. Should it be high? Should it be higher, maybe?
Yeah. Looking at some other markets, I suppose we have room to go higher.
What is, do you by any chance, does PFC by any chance have the numbers, or what would be the healthy proportions percentage of?
I don't have the crystal ball with me. But I would say foreign should represent anywhere between 10 to maybe 20% of the market. That would be healthy. Yeah.
Okay.
Because they provide the transient group that comes in and out. Yeah.
Right. 10 to 20%. Where are we now? Out of curiosity, does anyone have statistics on that? Daniel has some.
7 to 8% is still one digit, if I'm not wrong.
It's a single digit?
Correct. It is. It is.
So we can, I mean, we should work on double up the numbers. Double up the numbers. I see. Oh, okay. Interesting. This is an interesting numbers. I think, yeah, over to you on these questions from Anonymous.
I think that question may be because this particular person has invested in a locality where his tenant is an expat, or that the expats prefer maybe, this particular locality to rent. So maybe the question is what to do now, is it? That the expats are not really coming, or they're not allowed to come, and my place is empty. Maybe that is the question. I don't know. I was trying to.
We attempt on that scenario
as well. So of course, what we are seeing now is the expats are not in Malaysia right now because of multiple reasons. Number one is of course the MCO and the whole pandemic. So they either start elsewhere or they could be stuck in Malaysia also. So it's definitely not a time where foreigners are coming into Malaysia in drones. Let's put it this way, that's not happening. So, but will it come back again? Once things normalize and once, things go back to a little bit of normalcy, then I believe the expat market, the foreigners will return to Malaysia to live and to stay and to work, because Malaysia is actually quite a well-known destination. It's one of the preferred destination in ASEAN for people to live, because they like the culture, they like our food, they like our people and all that. So yes, it will happen, but perhaps not in the immediate future. So it may be a bit of a wait it out kind of scenario. In the meantime, you might want to adjust your asking price, your asking rentals, and cater to a local market in the interim. So yes, I think for those who are renting out your properties to foreigners, you might need to widen your market. Consider the locals who would stay if the rate is competitive.
Just out of curiosity, how strong is the local tenant market?
You'll actually be surprised. When you're talking about the future generation of people, right? You talk about what is it, Gen Z now or something. This group of people like like Surveyor Muhammad Salim and also Dr. Gambira has mentioned, they are the gig economy. They are the don't tie me down, don't lock me into this, don't lock me into that. I want to be fluid, I want to be free, I want to do what I want. YOLO, you only live once, that kind of lifestyle concept. So these kind of people generally don't like to be locked down into big time commitments, which means wow, every month I have to service 1,500, 2,000 on loan installment. Wow, for my future. Not really. They are more of, what can I do with 1,500? I can rent and live in a posh place, then that whole bragging rights come in. Oh, I'm living in some fancy place, even at this age. And they want to live it up and they want to live the life. And they may move every year. They may live here 1 year, then they can move somewhere else if they don't like it and things. So when it comes to that kind of concept of people, then you talk about the rental market being something strong. So don't overlook the fact that a local person will not want to rent your condo or your service apartment in an expat area, because they want to live there. They want to be where the community is. They want to be in a happening spot, with this, So don't overlook. I feel that maybe in future, some of these people may not feel that home ownership is as important as we, the older generation, put emphasis on. Yeah.
Right.
So some food for thought.
Right. If I think predictions is on the right track, that maybe home ownership may not be the only solutions for some of the next generation, what will Surveyor Muhammad Salim think from a developer perspective?
So we have to adjust. We have to adjust accordingly. So most probably the traditional way of selling freehold interest or 99-year lease is something that we have to adjust to, say, concept of time sharing, concept of fractional ownership. So there are ways to look at this, because fundamentally you need a place to stay.
Right.
There is your own or something that you rent.
Right.
So yeah, we have to adjust.
Yeah, so the developer may be owning the property, but multiple locations, ensuring maintenance is well done. And then via time sharing, then the younger generation, the YOLO community may move from location to locations under the loyalty membership. Under, say, for example, a developer. Hey, you never know. There probably will be a potential trend in the future, right? Daniel, you wanted to say something, Daniel?
Just again, a few statistics a bit different on these Gen Z and millennials. Apparently, millennials have been buying property like nobody business before, meaning beating not only Gen Y, but even the Gen X before them. Practically have been equaling the baby boomer, my generation time, when we were buying property because our parents were telling us, you have to own your bricks. So millennials are buying. Gen Zer, which are the gig community, are still very young. I fully agree with you. And to the question just now asked, I would say my choice is two. Is either I buy en bloc high-end properties in KLCC, and then I manage them, creating a gig economy hub for young yuppies to live inside there, those 20 years old, 22 years old, gig economy, multiple source of income, trading and doing some online business beside your normal occupation. That area might becoming, if I have enough space, enough floor space, I can host 10, 12, 15 of them, and I can create a common area for them to live together. They are very much community seekers, stylish, trendy community seeker, all right? And we had in PropTech one of our members that was planning to do something like that online to resolve the problem of these bachelors. Most of them are bachelors, not married, but professional with good income to pay a good rental in the city center. This is my first choice. Second choice, I sell all my high-end property even at a loss, and I go and buy affordable homes in the suburban areas. That is my strategy for the future.
Right. Thank you, Daniel. There is this question that's posted in the chat room, yeah, from Anonymous again. As some property owners still under loan moratorium and economy still weak, do we see certain softening of the property market next year? What the panelists view when come to price recovery? This is like the crystal ball questions. So basically, I think what he's trying to say is, do you think next year, 2022, will the property market soften further? Or, and when do you think the property market will recover? Has it really ever softened, I Ching? Even though maybe discounted here and there, but is it softened? It just didn't go up, isn't it? What's your view?
I think this one is very, this is a bit of a sweeping statement. It needs to be considered in more specific because certain areas, if you ask me, the property price didn't come down at all. In fact, it went up. So but certain type of product and certain localities, yes, we saw price adjustment, definitely. So it's a bit too difficult to answer one go, but I'll just so I guess I'll just make another sweeping statement also. Okay, yeah. So generally, of course, the loan moratorium has been a great help. I tell you, to be honest, a lot of property owners are so happy that the loan moratorium has kicked in because it gave them breather, and it also buys them time to if they needed to sell, they had that 6 months time to go and sell it, refinance, or do something where they can ensure that the more stabilize their portfolio or their asset portfolios. So yes, the moratorium has definitely helped. In fact, not just one time, the government has given it 2 times. In fact, if you ask me, they should extend it for another 3 months, but obviously they're not going to do that because they've probably felt that it was sufficient to brace a negative impact that would have if this didn't come in. So if you ask me, one of the reasons why I feel that the government did not put so much incentive into budget 2022 is also because they fear next year the price is going to go up because of the rising cost of materials. So the government didn't, I feel that they are probably considering, because normally government, they do have a lot of data and they analyze based on a lot of reasons. And sometimes I ask myself why they didn't want to do this. Then I thought, could it be the other flip side, which is the rising cost? If they spurt the market and the price of property goes beyond, again, become another category of unaffordable, then that's definitely not something they want. So I have a feeling that they foresee that the next year's property price will be somewhat adjusted to not to say a weakening market, to a rising cost market.
Wow. I don't know whether you call it a good news or a bad news.
I don't know. That is what I think it's happening, but I could be wrong because there's some people say, no, there'll be more foreclosed properties. Did you see more foreclosed property this year?
I don't know. What do you think?
You should get an auction guy and tell us that.
Yeah.
Well, you should have been. I agree with you basically because this year I was also expecting more foreclosure, a much higher NPL, which has not been happening. But the moratorium has been extended, kind of. A lot of people have not been repaying their loan for many months now, and unfortunately a good percentage of these people have not been saving to get ready for
the payment,
starting of payment.
And the money spent.
The money is gone. E-commerce and buy a new laptop because my kid need to go for his classes, and buy a new and more powerful laptop because I want to. A lot of these Gen Z and millennials go for Apple, go for the big screen Apple, 10, 15, 12,000 ringgit, buy with credit cards. Yeah, no problem. I'm not paying any longer my house loan. Now the house loan come back. I would say that critical to reply to this question, the next 6 months. In the next 6 months, we will see where it goes. Because
Right.
50% of me, I agree with you, I check. 50% of me, I'm unfortunately looking at a further, if not drop, definitely very soft market for the next 12 months.
I see. Okay. Okay. What about Surveyor Muhammad Salim? Do you think softening next year, recovering? Is it a V shape, U shape, or I don't know, L shape? L shape.
First, I look inside. Basically, from our planning, what we see 2022 will be much better than 2021 and 2020. And for that reason, we're going to ramp up our launch program. But all this will be, again, the guiding principle is always, it should be with proper study all being done. So I suppose the indications are also there. A few major developers recently announced that sales has been rather very encouraging. Yeah. And I suppose from my prediction, I would say 2022 will be a recovery year. Just the nature of the curve, whether it's going to be very steep or rather gradual. My take on this is gradual rather than steep upside. And as far as where we are heading, so the question or the answer to that is we are heading north. North.
Which is good, which is good, right?
Yeah,
Now there is another question that is actually in the audience, which I'd like to take it on from Ke Liang Ching. How the change of Malaysian second home policy recently affect the property market? Now, who wants us to look into these questions? Should I pass it to maybe I Ching? Or maybe Surveyor Muhammad Salim first? MM2H.
Yeah. So from the perspective of PFC, we have already issued a statement on this.
Okay.
What we are saying is, yes, there is a need for adjustment, but at the moment, as per the policy statement, the adjustment is just too drastic. You are in fact not helping the market, but rather counterproductive to what the market is happening. So I suppose there needs to be another round of adjustment to this. I hope the government is listening to the players and basically saying that, yes, we need to do something more gradual. And there were also a session where my president was featured together with MM2H reps, as well as the expatriate community, saying that first, do they love Malaysia? Yes, we do love Malaysia, but we are constrained because of the guidelines means we may have to relocate. So I suppose, I hope the government is listening and basically provide some adjustment on MM2H and allowing for the market to find its balance between the need of an increase versus what is perceived as to deter speculators from the market. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyone wanted to add on to these questions on MM2H? Daniel?
Yes, I couldn't agree more. Actually, being from the expat community, not MM2H holder, luckily, but expat community, I can tell you that the majority of expats are actually today looking around outside Malaysia, unfortunately, because of this new regulation. Malaysia should be attracting foreigner. Above all, the MM2H concept and idea, come and retire to Malaysia, should be there. And I retire people, honestly, by looking at the world global situation, we cannot expect an expatriate to have the type of requirement that the new MM2H is asking for. So we need I hope, as Surveyor Shalim says, the government is listening. Please relook into that and relook into policies to attract more FDI. Malaysia needs FDI and expatriates. Then the whole scenario, the whole property market, and not only, much more than that, will change and will look more positive in the next few years. We really need to relook into our policies towards foreigners. being more open. I've been here for 23 years. I love this country very much. All right, and I'm staying here. I'm staying here for forever, because it's the place where I have everything in this moment. But I can tell you the message that a lot of expatriates are giving is not so friendly, unfortunately.
Yeah, understand. You see, I think policymakers need to understand how people move around the world nowadays, right? I can be staying in Italy and then earning and then having my businesses in Hong Kong and having some of my talent team in Malaysia and having my call center in India. Right. So, like it's a very global right now. So as a result, the tax jurisdiction to craft a tax policy, it becomes more and more difficult. It is also why all these foreign source income, new measures, etc., is actually coming into the pictures. Right. So in the earlier sessions, I talk about the digital nomads. So these are the people that move from one location, like the migratory birds, so during the winter they fly to where the summer is, and when it's monsoon come, they fly back to wherever it is. So that is how living is. So in any country, not only we need to have a good ranking on FDI, we also have to work on the ranking on livable city, right? So, and then only we will be able to create a community, especially at the capital city, of metropolitan living, and only we can actually spur the economy onwards. If you ask my personal opinion, MM2H or whatever the equivalent that is actually promoting living in Malaysia is totally different from working in Malaysia and investing in Malaysia. So, it is actually supposed to be like the entire menu of various visa that Malaysia should all have, right, in order to actually spur. So of course, we would love to be able to sell more property to the right owner, and that can be foreigners, right? But at the same time, if they can come here to rent, I think it's also good enough to actually fill up the property market as well, isn't it? Okay, now we are at the moment, let me see, about 6 minutes to the end of our session. Time flies, isn't it? So will I be able to have every single panelist, my distinguished panelists here, to actually do a closing remarks, right, for our sessions? And maybe I'll start from Surveyor Muhammad Salim.
Thank you, Agnes, and fellow panels. It has been a privilege to be sharing the audience with you. And I hope what we have shared today would help some of those listeners out there and the viewers on matters concerning property. And do come forward if you need some advice. You can either go to us, or you can use Agnes, and then eventually she will lead you to us as well.
Yes.
So, yep. Has been a wonderful session, and I enjoy it very much. And whatever shortcomings, I would like to apologize. And I wish you happy investing in property. Thank you.
Yeah. And also invest into UDA property.
Yeah, that goes without saying, yes.
Yeah, that goes without saying.
And
Okay.
for that, basically, we do participate in the virtual booth as well. So
That's
you
right.
can look at some of our products in the virtual booth, and you will find more, because our presence are basically in urban space. And we have our presence and footprints in Kuala Lumpur, Johor Bahru, Penang, and other major cities.
Right.
Thank you, man.
Thank you, Surveyor Muhammad Salim. Ai Ching, closing remarks?
Okay, yeah, I'd like to say thanks to Agnes for organizing this forum, and it was wonderful to be on the same platform as my good old friend, Surveyor Muhammad Salim, whom I know for more than 20 years, and also Dr. Gambero, a new friend, I would say. We met just early part of, I think in October or something like that. But I think that today's sharing is very interesting. I've also learned a lot from PropTech Association as well as FIAPSI. On their various stands, and also the direction moving forward. I think one thing I can learn from all this is that the private sector is ready to act on the demand of the consumers. we are just hoping that the government sector will also follow suit, you know, and engage with us to get better understanding, especially with the MM2H. I think, you know, with all fairness to all our foreign guests in Malaysia under the program, I think we welcome you as Malaysians. We want you here. And we felt that the rules were being retrospective was a little bit harsh. And we hope that, you know, we won't, the government will quickly resolve this and look into a way where they don't make it retrospective, but at least, you know, forward lah. Don't go and make the conditions applicable backwards. So yeah, I think, yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Daniel?
And here I am. First of all, thank you, Agnes, for having me as an old friend and the president of the Malaysian PropTech Association. I have been honored to share stage with such two big institutions as MIA and FIAPCR, beside the fact that one old friend, Encik Shalim, we have been having a lot of discussion, and I'm planning to have a coffee with you soon, if possible, to refresh our friendship, and my new friend, Haichin, which I appreciate friendship from, and open door in cooperation between the brick and mortar industry of real estate and the technology side of real estate. We are here to help.
Haichin can also join the coffee.
And I will come too.
Okay. Beside the coffee, beside the property, what I would like all the public and the attendees to do is definitely think seriously about buying property, because it's a matter of the next probably 2-3 years before we will see the next jump up. You don't buy when everyone buy, you buy when everyone sell. Keep that in mind. And you sell when everyone buys. So that is one of the secrets of a good property investor. To know more about how PropTech is helping, allow me, Agnes, for just 2 minutes of short advertising. The Malaysian PropTech Association is really opening its arm and doors to the public, for all of you, property buyer, property professional, property developer, property agent, valuers, consultants, construction company, to understand more about what PropTech precisely is and how PropTech can help you. Malaysian PropTech Association has been organizing, following this aim, a huge Asia-Pacific PropTech Summit. We will showcase next week on the 26th and 27th of November more than 120 very renewed speakers from all around the world, talking and bringing the latest property technology, from metaverse to property management to solution for real estate agents, for valuers, for property developers, construction companies, and much more, to bring all these to Malaysia and to the global community. We are opening this summit to the whole public, property investors invited, and all the rest, all the stakeholders in the industry. It's a free summit. We are not charging anything, because we want people to learn and be more aware about this. Where you can find more about it, as I'm saying, www.proptech.org.my. That is our website association. You click under event and you will see everything. You can visit also the virtual expo. Agnes has been so kind to offer to PropTech a virtual booth where you will find all the information about the event. Or you can also add me personally as Daniele Gamber or Propenomist in LinkedIn. LinkedIn is my preferred platform. Over there you connect and you can ask all the questions that you want about PropTech and property investment. Thank you again, Agnes, and very, very nice and exciting to be with all of you today.
Thank you, Daniel. To all our participants today, basically property investments, right? It's not just asking your neighbor. You do need to actually do a lot of research, finding information. How do you do enough homework, right? By speaking to more than one property agent sometimes, and like what PropTech Association is going to have. Honestly, knowledge is never how do you call it? It's never overwhelming, right? So learning should always be continued. And by listening to PropTech Association upcoming webinar, was it next week? Yeah, Daniel? Next week, right?
Yes, on Friday and Saturday, 26th and 27th.
Yeah, and then you will have a lot of insights into what is actually is the future. I like to actually use this type of thoughts. You look at the brochure today, you buy the property today, you only use it in the future. So are you buying a property of the future to begin with? It's actually very important. So even for a developer, they have to have that little bit of the crystal ball to look into what shall be the future features that I need. So that when the property is delivered to you in that X number of months' time, it is remain relevant for your use, right? So property investment, it really comes with a lot of other things in this entire conversation that we have. So property investment is no longer about how much per square feet and how much per square feet. It's a lot more of information inside there, right? And today we cover really extensively. I really wanted to thank my fellow panelists here. Basically, we talked about collaborations. And in fact, Surveyor Mohammed Salim, if one day to cater for the YOLO community, right, whereby you need to actually do membership or whatever, you probably even have to extend that particular school to also collaborate with other developers so that you have more property for that kind of success to actually take place. So, you know, SMEs, it's no, like in the morning we talk about SMEs it's no longer a local company. SMEs or any companies per se, we have to grow big in order to be sustainable, right? We can't actually hunt alone anymore. And basically, we would like to actually see property industry to really grow. Property industry is a driver, honestly, one of the very important driver of the entire economy. And it has been, how do you call it, lagged for some time. I think we all realize that. Maybe because it's still catching up of the prices, we are not sure. But from a business standpoint, I can actually see that one thing that the government could do to help the property industry may not be directly from the property industry, but by bringing and to demonstrate growth in our economy, by bringing in FDI, because it's only then you bringing in talent, you bringing in job opportunity, you keep the people here. The closing remark that I did in the morning, I was telling everybody that yes, we may have lost some good Malaysians to other countries, but if we are not losing because we are Malaysia, it's not because Malaysia is not good, it's just because talent will always go for where the growth location is. So if Malaysia as a country, we can demonstrate that we are at the trend of growth, we are on the uptrend, I can tell you, whether it's Malaysians or whether it's foreigners, they wanted to come and be part of the growth that we are having. So there are so many things that we all of us must do, work hand in hand to bring things forward. I personally believe that the year 2022 is going to be a very good year. All right. And even if it is not, we have to believe that it's good and then we plan towards that it is good. Okay. All right. Now, ladies and gentlemen, there will be a poll questions that was actually being posted on the Hopin. Please take part on to the poll questions that was actually set up for you, because if you are to claim your CPD hours and etc., we will pay attention to whether you are take part in the poll questions. On top of that, this particular panel discussions is actually being recorded, and we will be doing a replay. We'll be doing a replay at 9 p.m. tonight. The one in the morning, if you have missed it, the replay will actually be 5:30 in the afternoon, which is about 1 hour from now. So if you have missed any part of our talk in the morning, or even now, it is totally fine. You can come back using your link and then come back in and then listen to the part that you want. And the team, my team here wanted to say after this, okay, so UOB, which is actually one of our exhibitor, one of our sponsor, will be actually having a talk, at a public sessions. If you are at Hopin, you realize that you are at the main stage right now. If you go out to the research area, you will see there are session talk, right? Click into the session talk, And UOB will be actually having their talk right after our sessions over here. So ladies and gentlemen, this is how digital world is. This is actually the e-exhibition. Please visit the e-booth, leave your comment if any part of it, and then we will be more than happy to come back to you on that. So our UOB talk will be at 5 p.m. Okay, now allow me to actually highlight on tomorrow's session. Okay, we are going to have Inland Revenue Officer, Custom Officer, as well as a tax director from KPMG joining us at the morning session. It will be a 3 hours drilling sessions. Right? No, don't worry. We are always very kind to our panelists, but we wanted to create the platform, yeah, for our participants to come and listen and to post questions, right? So as much as we can, we wanted to be able to exchange this information to let everybody know this event is actually molded with the idea of charity, right? So as a result, the ticket that we are selling is actually very cheap. It's 159 for 3 days with so many panelists that is actually in the pictures, because we are in the drive of exchanging knowledge for charity. So we have 6 participating charitable organizations with us. They also set up their booth with us. They can receive seven charity organizations, one more extra have joined us. Yeah, they can accept direct donations as well. Go to their booth, find out more about them. Yeah, and we believe that as part of a responsible corporate citizen or individual citizen doing charity, at least once a year probably will be a good deed. Yeah, for us to actually bring ourselves into the year 2022. For your information, we are only 45 days to the end of the year. 45 days, not more than that, okay? Less than 50 days, ladies and gentlemen, okay? So we hope that you take part in our discussion. I'll see you tomorrow. Learn from all of us here, exchange information if need to, because we believe the information that you gather will be useful for you to plan your year 2022 ahead, okay? Now, happy investing. Property shall be a topic that is in everyone's dinner table. Okay, all right, thank you very much, everyone. Right, so thank you. Over to you, the MC.
Thank you, Ms. Agnes, and our distinguished panelists for the enlightening and fruitful roundtable discussion on property landscape in West Malaysia. A friendly reminder to all participants who needed CPD or CPE points to participate in the poll questions. Ladies and gentlemen, with that, we have ended today's agenda of the Day 1 Business and Tax Conference moving forward in 2022. With that, I would like to thank you for joining us today. Kindly be reminded our session tomorrow will start at 9 a.m. Please register yourself as early as 8:45 a.m. so you will not miss the first session tomorrow morning. Participants, thank you once again, and I see you tomorrow.